What's going on, y'all? My name is Tommy. Their name is Warm Coffee, and behind me his name is It's So Cold Outside the Air Hurts My Face. Welcome back to the Ancestry Anthology this week. The last one from Lost Omens Impossible Lands. Reprint from the Nagaji. If you're liking what you're seeing, god damn it, I cracked my knuckles too early. You know what the fucking spiel is. You've watched a YouTube video before. Now do it here. Do it here. That will help you stay caught up on all your stuff. For now, let's dive in. Hockey dokie. So, talked about the Nagaji in 1E. You can follow this card right up here. I think I pronounced it differently back then. I've heard from a lot of the people who have written for Lost Omens Impossible Lands. Y'all, if I'm mispronouncing something, or if I'm forgetting key aspects of what we're building in to these ancestries and the stories we're drawing influence from, please by all means hop in the comments and educate myself and everybody else who might not know. I'm legitimately just very curious. But, much like the Vishkanya, much like the Gorin, much like the Vinara, the theme remains the same for the 2nd edition printing of the Ancestry. It's a big ol' glow up. When they were originally written, they were written to be a servitor species for Naga, created by the god of Naga. Penciling out the not-so-great lore and writing new lore, the Nagaji were created indeed by Null-and-Vadi, who drew inspiration both from humans and from Naga. Rather than to be created to serve the Naga, they were created simply for the sake of doing so. Fun quote from the text. She envisioned a world where Nagas and Nagaji work together to succeed, with Nagas serving as sacred guardians and Nagaji living as mortals upon Golarion, respecting Nagas for their strength and wisdom. A much more symbiotic relationship, and a much more diverse one. Present day on Golarion, anything from like governments to villages, their society is incredibly varied. Actually, fun fact, sometimes different Nagaji political entities will run into one another, have very different beliefs about things, then go to war about it, because they can't reconcile the other person's thoughts. You know, like a lot of other people in a lot of other places. Waves awkwardly to the history of warfare on planet Earth. I digress. Another interesting bit, Nagaji look way different than they did in 1st edition, and they're much more varied. Sometimes you'll see tails and legs, sometimes you'll see claws, sometimes you'll see a human from the waist up and a snake from the waist down, sometimes you'll see a cobra's head on a human's body. Nagaji tend to also be very, very strong. Sometimes indeed they can be bulky, but sometimes it's more the slender yet powerful crushing coils of the serpent. But mechanically, the Nagaji are an uncommon ancestry with a whopping 10 HP. They are medium creatures with a speed of 25 feet, with ability boost to strength and 1 freebie, and no drawback. Yeah, that's all of them. No drawbacks anywhere. Nice. You love to see it. They begin play speaking Common and Nagaji, plus, you know, other languages for their int and where they are and such. They have the humanoid and Nagaji traits, low light visions, and all of them have a Fangs unarmed strike, which deals 1d6 piercing damage in the brawling group with the finesse and unarmed traits. For our heritages, the hooded Nagaji gains a venomous spit ranged unarmed attack with a range increment of 10 feet that deals 1d4 poison damage. On a crit, the target takes persistent poison equal to the number of weapon damage dice. It doesn't have a weapon group, doesn't have a critical specialization, feels like another one of those ranged unarmed strikes that will fall to the wayside. The Sacred Naga, the one that looks like a human up top and a snake down below, and don't tell Watsy that we're whole cloth borrowing the Yuan-Ti, they may have opinions about it. Shh, Watsy, stop watching my video. Don't have opinions about it. Don't cause a controversy that would cause my channel to fucking skyrocket. Definitely don't. Oh no. Such Nagaji, instead of fangs, have a tail attack, which does 1d6 bludgeoning damage in the brawling weapon group with the finesse and unarmed traits. Likewise, they gain a +2 circumstance bonus to their Forta Reflex DC against attempts to grapple or trip them. The bonus also applies to saves against effects that would grab them, restrain them, or knock them prone. The Titan Nagaji has scales that are so tough that they function as armor. Specifically, medium armor in the plate group that grants a +4 item bonus to AC, a dex cap of +1, a check penalty of -2, a speed penalty of -5, a strength value of 16, and a comfort trait, you know, because it's your literal skin. The Venom Shield Nagaji gains resistance to poison equal to half their level, and a +1 circumstance bonus to all saving throws against poisons. So like, I feel like no one ever takes these heritages or feats or things, but then you super regret not having them. Just my 2 coppers. the Whip Fang Nagaji, last of them. The GMs in the room will recognize the action and reactions that a lot of snakes have. They have a long, flexible neck, which they can coil down or stretch outwards. For one action, by raising neck, their Fang Strike can gain a reach of 10 feet until the end of their turn. And for the feats, Cold-Minded gives you a +1 circumstance bonus to saving throws against emotion effects, and successes become critical successes. Another thing that I feel like people won't take often, but man, when you need it. Nagaji lore gets you trained in crafting and occultism, and Nagaji lore, of course. Nagaji spell familiarity, no weapon familiarity here, lets you, during daily prep, choose Daze, Detect Magic, or Mage Hand. Until your next daily prep, you can cast that spell as an occult innate cantrip. Weird that these weren't divine. I guess I don't know that much about Naga. I'll have to circle back on it. Serpent's Tongue gives you scent out to 30 feet, and Water Nagaji grants both a swim speed of 10 feet and the breath control feat. On and up and up, Hypnotic Lure for 2 actions, once per hour. You stare at a creature, hiss, "Look into my eyes," within 30 feet, and they will save against your class or spell DC. On a success, nothing happens. On a failure, on their turn, the target must spend their first action to approach you. They cannot delay or take reactions until they have done so. On a critical failure, they must use all their actions on their next turn to approach you. They cannot delay. They cannot take any reactions until they have reached a space that's adjacent to you. So then even then, do they still have to move? Like, they have to use all of their actions to approach you. So if they approach you with an action left, do they just run around in a circle around you? Then we're gonna roll. Nagaji Spell Mysteries adds Charm, Fleet Step, or Heal once per day as first level occult innates. Skin Split for 2 actions lets you once per day peel off the top layer of your scales, make a premature shed, and end all persistent damage from effects that coat your skin, like fire, most persistent acid, or you can attempt a new saving throw against effects that are like dependent on touching your skin, but don't do persistent fire. Venom Spit either gives you the Venomous Spit ranged unarmed attack, or if you're a hooded Nagaji, dazzles opponents who you crit with it. At level 9, in Venom Strike, if you possess a strike from a Nagaji heritage or ancestry feat that deals poison damage, so Venom Spit. Once per 10 minutes, you spit on your weapon or your friend's weapon, and if the next strike they make with that weapon before the start of your next turn hits and deals damage, it does an additional 2d6 poison damage. Interesting. I like this. I got a lot to talk about here. Guarded Thoughts says that any effect that specifically attempts to read your mind or glean information must counteract against your class or spell DC to do so, otherwise they get nothing. Eat shit, Eldritch Horror. Serpent Coil Slam once per minute. You can make a melee strike against a flying creature up to 1 size larger. If you hit, you use your neck or coils to smash the creature into the ground. In addition to the normal effects of your strike, the creature moves to the nearest unoccupied ground space and can't fly, levitate, or otherwise leave the ground for a round or the rest of their life if you crit them. Never underestimate how good these are. I have a fighter on Fridays who will flex into abilities to bring flying things down with their bow, and it's real nice. Serpentine Swimmer. If you took Water Nagaji, increases that swim speed to 25 feet. Disruptive Stare at level 13 as a reaction when a creature within 30 feet attempts to cast a spell with the Concentrate trait, so not Fireball, but yes, illusions and such. The triggering creature must attempt a will save against your class or spell DC. On a failure, the spell takes a -2 status penalty to attack rolls and DCs, and on a crit failure, it's just straight up disrupted. Nagaji Spell Expertise gives you Blink, Control Water, or Subconscious Suggestion as a 5th level occult innate once per day. Pit of Snakes. Once per day for 3 actions, you can call forth a writhing mass of snakes, raising your hands to cause the snakes to emerge from the ground in a 20-foot burst within 120 feet. The snakes appear on all squares of the ground in the area and remain for a minute. When you use this, all creatures in the area must fort save against your class or spell DC. Creatures that fail are grabbed by the snakes and take 3d6 bludgeoning damage. Whenever a creature ends its turn in the area, the snakes will attempt to grab, or things already grabbed take 2d6 bludgeoning damage. The snake's escape DC is equal to your class or spell DC. You can kill snakes, their AC is equal to your class or spell DC, and whatever grabbing snake is destroyed if they take 12 or more damage. So black tentacles, but snake flavored, basically. Not bad. Breath of Calamity lets you cast Chain Lightning as a 7th level occult innate, and blinds and deafens things that critically fail, as your roar shakes the earth and splits the heavens. That's so fucking metal. Then lastly, Prismatic Scales lets you once per day cast Prismatic Armor as an occult innate spell, except the spell alters the coloration of your scales instead of making armor. Because sometimes, you know, you'd rather be shiny. Okay, so there's a lot of cool stuff here. First of which, I think my favorite thing Like many of the ancestries in this book, there's just so much stuff that screams build around me. Big fan of these stair abilities, and I'm a big fan of things that do tanky things, because you don't see that very often in tabletop role-playing games. It's hard to be the traditional, like, TTRPG style tank, and one of the reasons for that is a lot of times the fighters and barbarians and things don't have like really good you must attack me, don't attack anyone else kind of mechanics. Hypnotic Lure, raise a shield. Hypnotic Lure, extend your neck, because you know you're going to attack of opportunity when they come close. Hypnotic Lure, force people to walk through the area of bad things over cliffs, and so on. Battlefield control is really fun, especially when it pulls something that's beating up your sorcerer friend off your sorcerer, because the sorcerer just had to build for melee. Fucking sorcerers. The ability to buff the party by casually putting like the fighter's weapon envenomed, so now it's doing poison damage on top of all the damage it does when they presumably crit. A thing that can be done from range that's really cool too. Say like a Nagaji insert ranged class here. A Nagaji gunslinger, why not? Who's in the back and fires, and in that same motion spits acid on like the barbarian's greatsword, and then they swing down the sword and the person they shot begins to burn. It's love that. This also definitely makes me want to dig into just the lore of all of the things that I haven't got to experience on like the monster side. I think we're going to be doing a lot of Creature Chronicles over the next couple weeks just to cover all of this content. And this is partially because now this seems just way, 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 way more interesting than... They're like Nagas, and they're here to enforce the Naga's will, and this makes me want to just dig in even more, and that's what I love about the writing of this book specifically. I see y'all kick fucking ass, keep it up, and like Pathfinder 2e's lore at large, but that's where I'm going to leave it for today. What do y'all think? Are we rolling them up? What's your best like teamworky, control-y build that you've done with the Nagaji? Let me know down in the comments. As always, thank y'all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.